The snow came down in sheets across the abandoned colony of Varus 9, turning the ruins into a graveyard of ice and silence. Ilara pressed her back against the crumbling wall, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air. 3 small bodies huddled against her chest, their chitinous plates clicking softly as they shivered. Predator cubs. Catherine Young, the very species that had declared humanity an existential threat only 5 years ago. Shh, Ilara whispered, running her fingers along Rune's ridged head. The smallest of the 3 looked up at her with 6 luminous eyes, too young to understand why his parents weren't coming back. Too young to know that the orbital bombardment that had killed them was meant for Ilara too. She had been a xenobiologist once, before the war. Before the Kethran Dominion decided that humans, with their pack-bonding instincts and their ridiculous ability to empathize with anything that moved, were too dangerous to exist alongside apex predators. The irony wasn't lost on her now, bleeding out in the ruins with 3 enemy children pressed against her for warmth. The shrapnel in her side had stopped hurting an hour ago. That wasn't a good sign. Stay close, she murmured, pulling the cubs tighter as another tremor shook the building. Her blood had soaked through her thermal suit, freezing into dark patches against the white fabric. The temperature was dropping faster now. Varus 9's sun had set, and night on this moon lasted 48 hours. Rune chirped softly, a sound of distress. Ilara knew what it meant. The cubs were hungry, cold, and confused. She had maybe 3 hours left. They had less. Her emergency beacon had been destroyed in the initial attack. No rescue was coming. The Kethran fleet had moved on, assuming all human presence eliminated. Standard protocol. Clean, efficient, merciful by their standards. But they hadn't accounted for Ilara finding survivors in the rubble. They hadn't accounted for her dragging 3 terrified cubs into shelter while plasma fire rained from the sky. They hadn't accounted for humanity's most dangerous trait, the inability to leave children behind. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the cubs, feeling consciousness slip. "I tried." 12 light-years away, aboard the human dreadnought Prometheus Rising, Captain Chen stared at the tactical display with narrowed eyes. Ilara's subcutaneous tracker had gone dark 6 hours ago, but not before transmitting one final burst of telemetry. Location, vital signs, and something else. 3 additional heat signatures. Small, Kethran. "She's protecting them," Chen said quietly. His second officer, Commander Okoye, stood rigid beside him. "Captain, the Admiralty has issued clear orders. Varus 9 is a dead zone. No recovery operations." Chen pulled up Ilara's file. Xenobiologist. Decorated for saving 17 Kethran civilians during the massacre of Helix Station, back when some humans still believed peace was possible. Court-martialed for refusing to weaponize her research. Discharged. And then, impossibly, still out there, still trying to build bridges in the middle of a war. "She's one of ours," Chen said, "and she's dying to save their children." "Sir, I said she's one of ours." Chen's voice carried the weight of finality. He turned to his communications officer. "Get me the Ghost Company." "All of them." Commander Okoye's eyes widened. "The Elite Guard?" "Sir, they're for planetary siege operations, not rescue. They're for whatever I damn well tell them they're for." Chen's jaw was set. Ilara survived Hell Week. She earned her place in the Corps before the discharge. That makes her family. He looked at the dying heat signature on the screen. "And we don't leave family behind. Always." The Ghost Company dropped from orbit like falling stars, 18 soldiers, humanity's finest. Each one, a survivor of the most brutal training program ever devised. Each one carrying enough firepower to level a city block. Their armor was black as void, their faces hidden behind helmets that bore no markings, no insignia. They were ghosts. They were legends. They were death incarnate. Lieutenant Zhao was first on the ground, her boots crunching in the frozen ash. Her helmet's HUD painted the world in thermal gradients and tactical overlays. One human signature. Fading fast. 3 Kethran cubs, hypothermic but alive. "Target located," she transmitted. "Moving to extract." The ruins of the research station came into view. collapsed walls, scorched earth, and in the center, barely visible through the snow, a figure slumped against broken concrete. 3 small bodies clutched against her chest. Zhao knelt beside Alara, her armor's medical sensors screaming alerts. Catastrophic blood loss. Core temperature dropping. Minutes left. Maybe seconds. "Ma'am," Zhao said softly, her voice modulated through the helmet speakers. "We're here. You're safe now." Ilara's eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "The cubs. We've got them." Zhao signaled her squad. Corporal Hayes moved forward with thermal wraps, carefully extracting the cubs from Ilara's weakening grip. Rune made a sound of protest, reaching back toward the human who had saved him. "It's okay, little one," Hayes murmured, wrapping the cub in emergency heating gel. "She's coming with us." But Ilara was fading fast. Too fast. The cold had sunk its teeth too deep. Lieutenant Zhao made a decision that would echo across the galaxy. She stood, turned to her squad, and gave an order that violated every rule of engagement, every protocol, every doctrine of proportional response. Fire Directive Omega, tactical radius, 5 kilometers. Target, thermal mass generation. Her soldiers didn't hesitate. They understood. Their commander wasn't dying alone in the cold. The Ghost Company opened fire. Plasma cannons roared. Incendiary rounds streaked through the air. Fusion charges detonated in sequence, turning ice to steam, stone to slag, ruins to inferno. They didn't target enemies, there were none left. They targeted the city itself, transforming 5 square kilometers of frozen wasteland into a blazing crucible of heat and light. The temperature spiked, steam rose in massive columns. The snow stopped falling, evaporated before it could touch ground. And in the center of that artificial sun, the Ghost Company formed a circle around Ilara and the cubs. Their armor radiating the absorbed heat inward, they became living furnaces, converting the energy of a dying city into warmth for 1 human and 3 children, who shouldn't have mattered in the calculus of war. Ilara gasped as sensation returned to her limbs. The cold retreated. Her vitals stabilized, pulled back from the edge by sheer defiance, and 18 soldiers who refused to let her go. Ruin chirped, pressing against her once more, now wrapped in thermal blankets, his body temperature climbing to safe levels. "You're insane," Ilara whispered, looking up at the armored figures surrounding her. Lieutenant Zhao's helmet tilted. "No, ma'am. We're human. There's a difference." The evacuation shuttle descended through the firestorm, its hull glowing from the heat. As they lifted Ilara onto the stretcher, the cubs, still clutching at her hands, she looked back at the burning city, an entire settlement, reduced to ash and memory, sacrificed for 1 life, for 3 more. "Why?" she asked. Zhao secured the cubs in the shuttle, then turned back to Ilara. Through the helmet's opaque visor, her voice carried something ancient and absolute. "Because you fell protecting children," Zhao said simply. "And humanity burns worlds for those who do that." The shuttle lifted off, carrying Ilara, Ruin, and the 2 other cubs toward the stars. Behind them, the ruins of Varus 9 blazed like a second sun, a monument to the species that couldn't walk away from the helpless. The Kethran Dominion would hear of this. They would learn what happened when one of their war fleets left a human to die in the cold. They would learn the terrible mathematics of human compassion. That for humanity, 1 life protecting 3 children equaled 1 city turned to fire, and they would learn to be afraid.